Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about how a single remark from the White House spokesperson has completely shattered the American dream of press freedom. Also, the CEO of an American rare earth company has personally described how China's rare earth policies are fatal to the US. Recently, Treasury Secretary Bessent and Representative Greer have strongly criticized China's new export control measures on rare earths, arguing that these actions pose a serious threat to the global supply chain. So just how deadly are China's controls for the US? Are Chinese commentators exaggerating the impact of these measures, or is the threat as serious as they say? It's actually the American rare earth industry giants themselves who can explain this best, and perhaps make things even clearer. CNBC in the US interviewed Michael Silver, the founder and CEO of American Elements, for an in-depth analysis of the current situation. American Elements is a private company headquartered in Los Angeles, founded in 1998. The company focuses on producing and distributing advanced materials and chemicals, including rare earths, supplying products to thousands of high-tech companies, research institutions, and defense departments worldwide. It has multiple production bases globally, and is one of the few companies in the US capable of deep processing rare earths. Silver said their company sources raw minerals from mines and, through a series of complex chemical processing and refining techniques, transforms them into high-purity materials that companies can directly use in product manufacturing. He mentioned that China's export controls on rare earths actually started just 2 days after April 4th this year, which was when Trump announced global tariffs. At that time, the Chinese government announced it would implement an export licensing system for 7 types of rare earth materials, and just a few weeks earlier, China had expanded the control list to 12 types. This round of controls has a particularly noteworthy feature. China is targeting rare earths this time. These are elements with extremely low concentrations in rare earth deposits, but with very high independence. These rare earths make up less than 1% of mineral reserves, yet they are core materials in commercial and military high-tech fields. In contrast, common rare earths like cerium and lanthanum, which account for about 90% of total rare earth deposits, are not included in the scope of control. Such a precise and targeted control strategy is extremely rare. This reflects China's intention to maintain long-term control over these scarce strategic resources, believing that this approach will pose a significant challenge to the US government. The CNBC host couldn't help but press further, pointing out that the general perception is that China's move is a countermeasure against the Trump administration's tariff policies, or a response to US restrictions on semiconductor exports to China. If these rare earths from China are truly so scarce and important, and if the US possessed such resources, would the US so easily share them with China? Silver responded, saying, "What you said is absolutely correct. And don't forget that these rare earth materials also have important military uses." Decades ago, Deng Xiaoping once made a telling remark: "The Middle East has oil, China has rare earths." China has always regarded rare earths as a strategic national treasure. Just think, if other countries use China's rare earths to manufacture military equipment that could threaten China's national security, then you can understand why China needs to implement control measures. What's even more concerning is that China's strategic toolkit is far richer than it appears on the surface. In the past, they've demonstrated remarkable strategic flexibility in pricing and export policies. Right now, what worries them most is the scenario where China might drive down the prices of bulk rare earths like cerium and lanthanum to extremely low levels, while at the same time completely halting the export of rare and critical rare earths like dysprosium. If this situation happens, the consequences will be very serious. Currently, those new rare earth mining projects in the US that are seeking financing would all run into trouble, because they would face low-price competition in bulk rare earths, inevitably leading to significant losses. Even the only rare earth mine still operating in the US, the Mountain Pass mine in California, could end up losing money. At that point, the US government would need to provide substantial subsidies just to keep it running. This is also a core point emphasized by the government. The US must be prepared to support the industry through fiscal subsidies. Measures like these are needed to ensure the continued operation of the Mountain Pass mine, in order to secure the domestic supply of critical rare earth elements such as dysprosium and terbium. These elements are core materials in key military technologies, including missile systems, radar devices, and radar systems. It's very possible that, to strengthen its own military technology advantage, the US might completely cut off the export of these strategic rare earths. This isn't just alarmist talk, it's a reasonable prediction based on the realities of geopolitical power. Silver further explains that China has two major advantages in rare earth resources. First, the large-scale rare earth element deposits in the northern Bayan-Ogyo mine are similar in type to the Mountain Pass mine in the US, and both mining and transportation technologies there are relatively mature. Second, and even more crucial, is the ion adsorption rare earth ore in the south, which is a unique type of rare earth deposit found only in China. Heavy rare earths like dysprosium and terbium are rare earth elements. These mines are special because the rare earth elements are an ionic form attached to clay minerals, making them easier to extract, but the environmental impact is also significant. The fact that the US doesn't have this type of ore at all gives China an almost monopolistic position in the field of heavy rare earths. However, it should be clarified that the US isn't completely without heavy rare earth production. Mountain Pass mine can also produce a small amount of heavy rare earths. In addition, Lynas Corporation in Australia operates a mine at Mount Weld in Western Australia, which also produces some heavy rare earths. If it's just about meeting military and defense needs, he believes the US government would ultimately prioritize allocating these resources to the defense sector, and their production is basically sufficient for that. However, the core issue still remains. If China drives the prices of bulk rare earths down to extremely low levels, the Mountain Pass mine's business would also take a heavy hit and wouldn't be able to maintain profitable operations. And for those new mining projects seeking investment, in this kind of price environment, it's simply impossible to achieve commercial viability. If there's no chance of profit, production won't happen. So, the electric vehicle industry will be hit first and hardest. Electric vehicle drive motors still rely on high-performance neodymium iron boron magnets, which must include this element to keep their magnetism in high temperatures. Without it, the efficiency and reliability of EV motors would be compromised, meaning the industry's development speed and scale would face greater challenges. The strategic goal of promoting a clean energy transition could also be hindered. In addition, a wide range of commercial technology sectors, such as laser technology, wind power generation, medical imaging devices, and consumer electronics, would all come under pressure. The supply chains of these industries will be disrupted, but he believes the specific impact still needs to be observed, because China's policies in this area have always been extremely flexible and changeable. Since 2008, China has demonstrated exceptional strategic control over rare earth pricing, sometimes sharply raising prices to achieve certain political or economic goals, and at other times pushing prices down to near or even below cost. For example, around 2010, China deliberately kept domestic rare earth prices much lower than those on the international market. The purpose of lowering the price was to attract companies like General Electric and other multinationals to move their production lines to China. This eventually triggered the WTO lawsuit in 2012. You could say that China has a very rich arsenal of strategic tools. In fact, as early as 2002, China once caused the Mountain Pass mine in the US to be forced to shut down. With about 50% of the world's rare earth reserves, China's natural geological advantage gives it absolute leverage in pricing. Here's a key market dynamic. If rare earth prices are raised, mining companies in other countries will usually follow suit and increase their prices too. If they don't, shareholders will strongly question whether management is giving up the chance to boost profits. But if China pushes prices down below the production cost line of miners in other countries, then these companies are left with only two choices. They either have to find ways to drastically cut costs, or just shut down and stop production. In this kind of price war, China holds all the initiative and pricing power. Mountain Pass closed in 2002 precisely because it couldn't stay profitable against China's low-price competition. It only restarted operations in 2017 with support from the US government, but in reality, it had already been marginalized. After watching Siever's interview, you'll see, first, China's rare earth industry dominates, especially in heavy rare earths. If China cuts supply, the US and West could only supply their militaries, other sectors, like electric vehicles, would stop. Second, China uses strategy, especially by keeping common rare earth prices low, making it hard for Western firms to compete. Currently, there's no solution to this deadlock. China's rare earth card is even more lethal than America's chip card, because China is still lagging behind in high-end chips. When it comes to mid and low-end chips, China is actually a major player and won't be fully suppressed by the US. But in the rare earth sector, China has complete control over both the high-end and mid to low-end markets. Speaking of which, the US political scene puts on a great show every day. Hollywood screenwriters couldn't make this stuff up. The latest drama is the ruthless trampling of press freedom.
On October 16, a Huffington Post Times reporter asked Press Secretary Leavitt, who chose Budapest for a Trump-Putin meeting. Leavitt snapped, "Your mum did?" Stunned, the reporter asked, "You think that's funny?" Leavitt doubled down, calling him a radical left hack and banning dishonest, biased crap questions.
If you thought this was just the outrageous behavior of a 27-year-old female spokesperson acting on her own, you'd be wrong. The spokesperson for the Ministry of Operations, Parnell, is the same. Earlier, when the Minister of Operations, Kajisis, attended a meeting with President Zelensky of Ukraine on April 17, he wore a tie with the same red, blue, and white color scheme as the Russian flag. Russian state media TASS highly praised this, and a reporter from the Hampton Post asked the U.S. Department of Operations spokesperson, Parnell, whether he had noticed the Russians' praise.
Parnell shot back, "Your mum bought the tie. It's a patriotic American flag-colored tie, idiot."
Attacking reporters has already become a policy of the Trump administration to strike back at journalists. This is yet another chapter in Trump's series of actions targeting the press. Just imagine if a Hong Kong official held a press conference and a reporter asked a question the official found offensive, and the Hong Kong official responded with something like,
"Your mum."
What kind of reaction do you think there would be in Hong Kong? The real joke is that the US is seriously suppressing press freedom itself, yet still has the nerve to criticize Hong Kong for lacking press freedom. This was in August this year. The meeting released the 2024 Annual Human Rights Report, saying Hong Kong's human rights have worsened over the past year. It said Beijing and Hong Kong have worked together to weaken Hong Kong's autonomy and political freedoms, including restricting freedom of speech and the press. The US claims press freedom in Hong Kong is seriously limited. So, should Hong Kong follow the US standard of press freedom and have SAR officials ask reporters,
"Your mum,"
to help strengthen press freedom?